Hi, welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. In this video we're going to be looking at the Samsung Digital Deadbolt, part number SHP-DS510. Now originally when these type of locks were coming out on the market, it's always good to grab one, play with it, try and kill it, see what the faults are, see how good it is to rekey, see how good it is to fit, see what the footprint is and things along those lines. I did reach out to Samsung, I got no emails back. I reached out a few times. No emails, no information, no nothing. The other day I had one of these deadlocks, we came across one of these deadlocks, became faulty. The customer wanted a replacement, so I wasn't happy actually buying one and replacing it and putting it back on the door. I did read some information about these locks. Some people reported up to 2 months they lasted, some people reported a year. This one was only 2 years old, so as a professional I wasn't happy putting it back on the door or trying to repair it without knowing what the faults and problems were, and without more information about it. And I wasn't happy putting a new product on because then I'd need to give her warranty. I mean, Samsung's a good brand, they make good phones, unless you got that phone that blew up in people's faces and wasn't allowed on aeroplanes. I mean, that was a bit of a bad season there, but since then they've made good phones. There's always a bad batch at the beginning, like the washing machines. They made good other machines, but that washing machine thing was pretty bad when they had the recall on it and was burning down people's houses. So what I'm saying is there can be some faults, and it's good to know what you got, what you're dealing with before you put it out there and sell it to your customer. I told this to Samsung. I said, you know, it'd be helpful for their customers to have some sort of indication on what the faults or problems or how to repair, rather than constantly getting units sent back. I got nothing back, so I thought, now that I've got one on the bench, let's pull it apart and see what we can do, what we can find, and make some conclusions from there. So let's get into it. So the actual fitting of the deadlock is not too hard. Basically it uses a 54mm hole, same as your standard knob set, same as your standard handle lock. It uses the same type of latch as any deadbolt would, and as you can see the footprint is the same as a deadbolt or a handle lock. So removing it or putting it in place of a deadlock or a handle lock is straightforward. The holes are already there cut out for you. If not, you follow the standard holes, and if this lock ever plays up you can simply remove it. So this is just quickly putting it on the door. The latch is secured like a normal deadbolt latch, nothing fancy there. 3 screws on the back that hold on the metal plate, which is quite easy. Then there's a gasket that needs to be put on just around the outside there, and then there's a wire to connect the front section to the back section, and then after that there's 2 screws underneath the AA batteries that you need to connect the top of the lock on the inside to the mounting plate, and then you push it down and there's one little finger tightening screw underneath, right underneath the bottom there. So it's literally 3 screws on the inside around to hold the back on, to hold the front to the back plate, then another 3 screws and you're done. So fitting is pretty easy for this particular type of lock. Okay, so let's have an overview of this Samsung deadlock. To start with, on the front here you have your low battery symbol which appears about here. You have your privacy mode symbol which appears about here. In privacy mode you won't be able to get in. It's basically used if you don't want people coming in with card or code. They say remote, but I'm pretty sure it works on card or code. You do have the key, that's a mechanical function, so that will override privacy mode. The cylinder here is a PD cylinder, and I'll show you more about that. They can be swapped out to standard, restricted, and all sorts of keying systems as well. Your reset is on the front. You put in, I've made up a little question mark, use a bobby pin, you stick it in there, hold it down until you hear the magic. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that just means basically it's been set into reset mode. The codes will still work. It just resets the lock. It doesn't reset everything. If you do want to reset everything, it's as simple as flipping over here, removing the battery cover, coming to this button here, reg, and then you can perform that task. We've done a quicker video on that, so we're not going to do programming or removing or formatting, because that's a completely different video. Now, to open and close this type of lock here, you have a few different options. From the inside, you have this turn switch, which you can just turn. This one here is a broken one. So you turn that, you lock and unlock. You also do have a button on the inside.
The door has locked.
The door has opened. Okay, pretty straightforward. This little black thing here is a reed switch activated by a magnet. When you put it there, it symbolises when the door is locked and unlocked, so the lock knows.
The door has opened.
Okay, there we go. Now, on the inside here, we're using AA batteries. We're not using any fancy or funny batteries that you've got to spend extra money on. AA batteries, most likely it's going to say use alkaline or something along those lines. Use cycle is about 18 months, which is about 10 times per day, depending on how you use it, depending on how long those will actually last. The set button, I didn't see too much information about that, but all the codes are all done by the reg button, so I didn't find too much information. This particular deadlock fits in place of a handle lock or a deadlock, so it uses a standard 54mm hole right here. It doesn't leave any extra screw holes or anything like that, so if you were to remove this because it's failing, you can simply stick a deadlock or a handle lock in its place and it's going to do the job. So if you look at it side on, that's what you're looking at. Lengthwise is about 160, protrusion is about 45, on the front about 40. So it's a fairly slimline type of lock in itself. This one here came off a door because it was failing. The way it was failing is that the bolt was thrown about halfway like it is now, and it was jammed. I have done a few tests now where I've put pressure on it and tried to open it.
The door has locked.
Okay, now I'm jamming it up. So it knows it's been jammed. If you cycle it, sometimes it might come good.
The door has opened. The door
And it has
locked.
come good. In the position we found it, it was about halfway jammed, and you couldn't even turn this in or out. It was basically just jammed in that position
The
there.
door has opened.
Now, to repair that, what we did is we removed the actual batteries. They're flying everywhere. Okay, so to get this off the door now, what you need to do is use a Phillips head screwdriver. You got two screws right here. It's fairly easy to remove off the door. Removing those two screws, you got one here down the bottom that you turn with your fingers. You lift it up like this and it'll come off the door. Just get that screw out so I don't lose it. Okay, now we can flip that over. In here you've got your reed switch. If it's on the left, you put it on the left. If it's on the right, you put it on the right. It's no big deal. You got your big cable here. You pull this out just very gently. You do not want to disturb these wires. This was a broken unit, so that's why I've had to pull it all apart, and I'll show you that now. Now that's been removed, so that's our main cable right there. That's the inside of it there. All the mechanisms are basically on the inside. This is your tailpiece here, which normally doesn't actually come off, but that was a good indication of sorry, goes this way. That's a good indication of when you need to cut your tailpiece. They said on the instructions 5mm, but look, if you've got that piece in your hand, put it over the top, make sure it does not protrude past that section right there. Okay, to get this off the door, let's use the lazy screwdriver. Do it this way so you can see better. Okay, lazy screwdriver strikes again, removing it off now. Okay, so you've got three main screws holding it on. There is no screws in this section of the plate. There is provisions there, you could probably even put one, but I wouldn't, because if it ever fails, you want to be able to put a standard deadbolt or a standard knob set back in the same spot. So that's it removed from the door. No footprints, no extra holes, which is quite good. This is a deadbolt latch. It doesn't do anything. It's just a standard latch. Okay, so we can pretty much rule that out. That is adjustable from 60 to 70 by taking it out and rotating the faceplate. It'll grow in size. So here's your actual lock itself. In my hands here, I can see down there you have a PD cylinder, and to remove that is a simple screwdriver. Once again, use your screwdriver and remove it. The tail you can recycle on most standard PD cylinders, and you can also adapt restricted key systems because it's just a PD system. The tailpiece on the back, I'm going to rotate it all the way anti-clockwise. I'm at the 11 o'clock position. Rotating it all the way clockwise, I'm getting down to about the 5 o'clock position. So you just need to have a tail that can accompany that, and also the length. So that's changing the key. A lot of these are coming out with fancy, funny keys. You can't get key blanks, or they're a bit of a nuisance. So just by swapping it out with a standard PD cylinder or an anti-bump or high security cylinder, will definitely solve those problems. These come out from Bunnings for about $350. We don't sell them, we don't install them. So if you've got problems, call Samsung. Don't call me, we're not a helpline, okay? I'm just giving you the overview of it. At the moment, these particular locks, they are out there, they are working. Some people have reported 3 months, some people have reported 2 or 3 years. So it really depends on a few factors on how long you actually get off your lock. Now I'm going to strip this down real quick and give you a real quick explanation of what's going on in here. The top 2 white sections are for your reed switch, left and right. The bottom one down here is VDP, which is your video door phone. You can actually integrate this with your intercom, your Samsung intercom. Up the top here we have 2 screws if we wanted to remove this main circuit board. This circuit board is coated in a plastic resin, so this is your main battery here. If you need to remove that, that's going to be a real pain in the bum. Removing these 4 screws now down the bottom here, and I'm going to do this because this is how I managed to free up the mechanism, because when I first got this, it wasn't able to travel the distance of projecting that bolt. What that means is that when this part here protrudes through this deadbolt here, it wasn't able to turn enough on the inside to project. So that was where we found the problem. So there's 4 screws here. I'm just going to quickly remove, and now you have a plate with a bit of rubber on the top. Flipping it over, keeping my screws. There you have it. There you see it. Now under here you have 2 pieces of tape. I'm going to quickly remove these as well. They do nothing except for keep those wires down, so we're just going to peel them up. Okay, so here you have 2 brown sections. These are actually like servers from RC type thing, if you're familiar with them. They're basically a cog, a little motor, all in one. So I'm just giving it a wiggle with some tweezers, and there you have it. That's what we're looking at. See that? That's what drives the cogs in there. You can see them. Now this one here on this side here is feeling solid. Last time I pulled it out, it was feeling weak. So I'm at a loss onto how they actually work, whether one's a servant or not. And this one here is solid as well. So last time I put it apart, yeah, one was weak, one wasn't. Now when I turn the handle on the inside, I can see this part in there moving, if you can see that. So I make sure it's all the way, if I'm looking at it, all the way clockwise. Now I can rotate this gear cog in here as well, and if I rotate that all the way, I want to rotate that all the way back. Yep. The reason I'm not getting any travel on that is because this motor is in the way. Come on. Okay, so now I rotate the handle, I rotate my cog all the way so it's touching that. Now I can start to push these motors back in. Now these are a bit funny to actually get in. There's one. I wiggled the handle to get that in, and there's 2. So they're in there nice and flush. I'm going to put some tape on these wires so they don't get onto the spindle. Okay, there we have it. So that's how I repaired it when it was playing up. There might be other repairs, or them, who knows if there's parts available. I'm going to put back these 4 screws now. Just popping it over here. Your audio speaker is down the bottom here as well, and it does look like these those 2 server cog parts can be replaced. Doesn't seem to be much of a clutching function, but I have found it does jump gears, and I can't see much wear in there. So as to how that's all working, whether or not it's clutching function, I don't know. Okay, that section's on there. Putting that back in there. Putting the rubber back on. Okay, putting this part back in there. This part can go one way, I believe. Can it go 2 ways? Can only go one way. Okay, so there we have it. We've stripped it down. Now we're going to put it back on the door. So we're going to come from this side here. And I'm going to rotate this tail piece here all the way to the back towards the hinges, then level it off left and right, feeding the wire through the hole. Okay, pushing that through. I will actually have to hold that because as soon as I let go, it's going to fall down. Do we have anything to prop it? There we go. Okay, so removing these 3 screws now, feeding the cable back through the door. So actual fitting is not a problem with this type of lock. It is quite straightforward, quite easy for what it is. Just going to make sure those screws start off properly. Okay, using my lazy screwdriver. Okay, that's on nice and tight. Connecting up my main cable now. There's 2 little lunks on this side with 2 little lunks on the top side, so that's straightforward. That just pushes in. Pushing my cable up, making sure it's not snagged on anything, and also my reed, making sure it's the right way, and the cables are there. Now connecting this part here, I need to connect my tail piece right here, as you can see. I need to put that male piece on the female piece, putting it back down over the top. Now we need our 2 little grub screws which we took out underneath the battery section. Just pushing it down because that cable makes it want to pop up a little bit. That's 1 in. It's 2 in. You need to push this section down to get that back one in because it's got a bit of a rubbery bounce to it. Just trying to get that bottom screw in. Okay, and that's in. So this section here would normally be sort of sticky taped on the door. It's like a black sticky tape. You squeeze that on. On this side on the frame here, it comes with this little cover. This is your magnet, and you would attach that to the frame. They say not to go any more than 20 mil. I say you should have less than that, but it does have a pretty good strong magnet, so that will work. Okay, putting these back in. Our batteries are back in. It came with this little Batman figure thing here. It just goes in there, slides in there, stops the batteries from falling out in an extreme hurricane situation. And there we have it.
The door has locked. The door has opened.
So as you heard there, I just had to push those servo motors to actually move it.
The door has locked. The door has opened.
Okay, so we're starting to get it to move now. I'm going to put the magnet back on there.
The door has locked. The door has opened.
Watch what happens when I put the magnet there. It will automatically
The door
lock
has
itself.
locked.
From this side here, it's a simple touch it to wake it up. Should have woken it up. Looks like we have a problem.
Wrong entry.
Okay, so it wants to go back, but it's not going
The
back.
door has opened. The door has opened.
So those servos might need to
The door
cycle.
has locked.
Okay, now it's
The
working.
door has opened.
So what I found is when I got this, it was originally broken. I readjusted those cogs and got it to work. And as you saw then, it was kind of out of sync. So by moving it backwards and forwards a few times and locking and unlocking, it seems to resync itself in some degree. It would be nice if it had a clutching function, a bit of more of a mechanical function to do that, but it doesn't. It has come good after being jammed a few
The door
times.
has locked.
But on saying that,
The door
I
has
do
opened.
find it to have little tiny problems here and there. Like now, what's it doing? It means it's jammed in some way.
The door has opened.
Okay, so let's cycle it.
The door has locked. The door has opened. The door has locked.
Okay, let's see how we go. Nothing happened. And now it's
The
working.
door has opened.
So, cutting it short, would I fit this on a customer's house? No, not yet. Is it a good product? Seems okay. Seems to have some sort of faults. Customers have reported two to 2 years or 3 to 3 years. It's not quite there yet. I find the product to be pretty good in a lot of ways, as far as the footprint, the cylinder, I like that. The electronics inside being able to sort of pick up and clutch, well, not clutch, but kind of find themselves and come good in a few ways is kind of good. Sometimes when things jam up, they just jam up and they're completely stuck. You have to manually reset. But this type of item, for some reason, as you saw there, it jammed up and then it came good and then it stopped. And so when it does have problems, it's not the end of the earth. There is a chance that you can actually get it to work again, which we've just done there. I can hear it's kind of clicking and grinding inside. Internal parts are going to be a problem. There is no internal parts. It is a disposable item at this stage. They've put in no infrastructure to have to replacement parts, no infrastructure for repairs and things like that, no information. It's pretty much a buy from your hardware, fit it and see how you go. So that's the overview of the actual product. That's as much as I can kind of tell you at this stage. I've shown you the board, I've shown you what's inside, I've shown you how it operates. If you've got any comments or you know more about this particular product, please leave it down below. I don't know if it does Bluetooth. I don't know if it has Wi-Fi. Being a mobile phone manufacturer, I would assume it would, but I found nothing in the instructions about it. So at this stage, I can't confirm or deny that. Fitting on the door, as you see, it's relatively simple. Removing it from the door, you're left with no footprint, so you can replace it with whatever you want. So on that side of the fence, you're not really modifying a very expensive door to take this chance, which I believe is one of the upsides of it. So Samsung Digital 510 Deadlock, yes, usable. I'd use one on my house. I would not install it in a high use area. And yeah, more testing and more parts, and probably a few more fault finding exercises are probably needed before I'd feel comfortable with this in a commercial application. We don't sell these, we don't install them because they are new on the market. They haven't been tried and tested yet. That's the reason why. If you want one, buy one from Bunnings. That's the cheapest price. And if you want it installed, ask your handyman or somebody else. Yeah, because if we were to install this for you, a lot of people say, oh, it's playing up now, must be the installation. And as you see, with all the electronics on this thing, 99% of the time, it's not the installation. It's most likely something electronic that's gone amiss. Slight pressure on the bolt can really cause problems like that. Let's simulate pressure on the bolt and see if we can get it to play up. Wrong tag. Why wrong tag? I'm jamming it up. So the 5 seems to be the jammer.
Wrong entry.
Now that I jammed it up, doesn't want to seem to move. This will be the time you need to use the key. It'll come on the inside.
The door has opened.
And cycle it.
The door has locked.
And it seemed to work that time. So that's a quick look at the Samsung. Leave your comments down below, and thanks for watching.